Fun.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Semi Soccer Expert Podcast, also known as the
C podcast.
All right, guys, we're on episode number 49.
49 at last.
Wow.
What big news has happened the last 72 hours or so?
The wildest thing that you could imagine, and
It's actually something we predicted before. That's the funny.
We did talk about it a lot before. We talked about it a lot. Let's cut to the chase. The Super League. The Super League was announced on Sunday night, right?
Yeah.
But the rumors started circulating a little, I think, on Saturday. And
it was more Sunday morning because I heard more. It was all talked about during the Premier League, especially when Manchester United was playing in the morning. And everyone was just like, what? This is really... At first, I didn't believe it, because there's always been rumors, a lot of people disputing stuff, but it never took into fruition. And like Mario said, we did talk about it beforehand. And we were just like, no way, is this really going to happen? But then the rumors started getting heavier, and there was a lot more discussions, a lot of more, high media people, social media people, specifically on Twitter, discussing like this is really going to happen. And then Sunday night, voila, Super League was announced, and it's just crazy because when I first heard it, I was just like, wow, it was initially the 6 Premier League teams: Arsenal, Manchester United, Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, and also the big threes from Serie A and La Liga, including Inter Milan, AC Milan, Juventus, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. All those guys came to combustion. And mind you, they did not even tell anybody else. It's pretty much the owners who made this decision. And like people like right under them, like the presidents and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure they didn't even tell their shareholders. Obviously, they didn't tell the players nor managers. It was just hush hush. And then once it broke out, hell just broke loose right after that.
And hell broke loose indeed. I mean, this has been a very wild week. The Monday and Tuesday were wow.
Twitter was going into a frenzy. Soccer Twitter specifically.
Soccer Twitter into a frenzy. And to be honest, like there's so much info on this that we don't
know where to start.
We don't know where to start. But I think let's start from way in the beginning. Let's talk about what we had mentioned in previous episodes. To start, everything circulates around money. Everything revolves around money. Let's start. I think the easiest way for me, from my perspective, would be with Real Madrid and Barcelona. They're in La Liga, and it's not nice, but I guess it's fair to say, or true to say, that Barcelona and Real Madrid generate the most revenue out of all the other clubs in La Liga. We've talked about eyeballs, we talked about viewership, we talked about things like that. Real Madrid and Barcelona are the two teams that bring viewership to La Liga. And I think maybe, was it a year or two ago, where La Liga had reorganized their TV rights deal and how they distributed the money between all the teams. And Barcelona and Real Madrid are getting a larger share of that cut.
Yeah.
So, and they've always had this mentality that we are the biggest teams, and they are. It's not a false narrative that they deserve the more money, and they should have more say in whatever they get to do.
It's also their influence, I think, because over the last, roughly since late 2000s, early 2010s, Real Madrid and Barcelona were duking it out until Atletico Madrid came into like mid 2010s, and they were just taking over. And that's when more speculation was going on, because at that time, during early 2010s, no team was stronger than Barcelona and Real Madrid. You can talk about your Bayern Munich, you can talk about early Manchester United, or even like whatever teams came out. But those two teams were the talked about teams, especially the Clásicos. It was like a pay-per-view watching. And from there, built a lot of speculation. Like, those two teams were so high up the totem pole because that's when Messi and Ronaldo were in their primes. And it was just fueling more speculation like, hey, these guys are generating so much money, so many eyeballs, so many people are watching this. I think that's where it started came into fruition, especially into Florentino Perez, who we'll get more into about this. Um, that he probably came up with the idea like, let's get the Super League, let's get the top teams again facing off against each other, in contrast to a Champions League.
No, you're right. Especially during that first, the period of 2009 until roughly, I'd say 2018. That was the height of the Barcelona and Real Madrid era. You had, like you said, Messi and Ronaldo on their prime. Between that period, those were the two top teams in the world. You had Real Madrid winning four Champions League in 5 years, and then you had Barcelona, who has arguably the greatest player in the world. And even though Barcelona only won two within that decade, I mean, you count 2009, that's three. You still have a very dominant team. Most football experts would say, if you had to mark 2010s with two teams, it is Real Madrid and Barcelona. Like you said again, it's a pay-per-view event. They generate a ton of money, and we've mentioned this before. Forbes always ranks Barcelona and Real Madrid between the top three teams in the world. The third, or I mean, not the third, but in that mix of three is Manchester United, generating the most revenue out of any sports franchise. And I believe those three still make more than the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
So they command a lot of money. They command a lot of influence. And yes, there always been this speculation of an inter-European competition, and which to me is kind of weird because you've always had the Champions League. It's not like there is an inter-European competition. Like the Champions League is there, the UEFA Cup is there. And for those of you who are old enough, the UEFA Winners Cup.
Cup Winners Cup. Yeah, it's a tongue twister.
Right. So it's always been there. But, Florentino and other powerful people in the industry have always wanted to do a longer format, the same way they do the domestic league, 38 games over a whole year span, to play the top teams. It's just a lot of, that's the starting point. I think when it comes to Real Madrid and Barcelona, let's shift it over to the Premier League. Prior to the 2010s, what are the top teams in England? Man U, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea.
Yeah, and Chelsea, the original top four.
The original top four. And now you have Man City and Tottenham in the mix. So now we call it the Big Six. The EPL is I'm never going to say it's the best league, but I'll say it is a spectacle. It is the most.
It's the best league in terms of cash revenue. I would say that.
Yep.
Cash/TV revenue, because just because the teams are so not just relatable, just not because they're English, but just for the sheer fact is like there's so many supporters out here, especially in the U.S., who are willing to watch their favorite teams at a pub and pay for subscriptions. We mentioned, and and it's just growing Premier League interest as well. So with that being said, it's just been so many years that these teams have been going on top. Manchester United, up until Fergie's days, they were on top. They were considered the best team in England, even sometimes in Europe. They will always be there for Champions League semifinals, finals, etc. And then once United, after Fergie, City, started taking up that rank, being the noisy neighbors and all. And then you had Chelsea, who finally won a Champions League. Liverpool is, they're back into what they believe is their renaissance right now. But, given their title defense, doesn't look like that. But anyways, with that all being said, though, all these teams, they're all compatible against each other. And it's always interesting because the Premier League is way more competitive now than ever has been the last 10 to 15 years, I would say. And I think that's why it makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, no, no, the Premier League is it's definitely a lot more competitive now. Even though I think, if I'm not mistaken, Man City has an 11-point lead.
Yeah, they have another. Well, they have a game ahead, but it's pretty much done and dusted. But a lot of people stated, like, even when the season was midway, it's like no one could predict who's going to win until City took their took their surge and they started winning like crazy, because even United were on top of the table.
And
But
also is ninth.
yeah, fun
All
time.
right. So we've covered the English teams. Now let's move on to the Italian teams.
City.
Uh, Serie A. For the last 10 years, Juventus has been the dominant force. You know,
With an iron
time,
fist.
the last time any Italian team won the Champions League, as we all know, is Inter Milan in 2010 when they completed the historic treble. 2010, they won. That was their last Serie A title. 2011, AC Milan won the Serie A title. And then from 2012 to the present season, Juventus has won all the titles. Now, prior to this last decade, Serie A has been at its weakest. Prior to that, 2000 to 2010, it was it was definitely a strong presence for Serie A, where you had Inter Milan, AC Milan, and Juventus constantly being in the Champions League. And if you're a football fan, and I'm an Inter fan, but I'll say it, AC Milan had a very dominant team when they were in the final in Istanbul in 2005, and then in 2007 when they won the Champions League with Kaká. So it's not like Serie A has been irrelevant. It's just the last 10 years of recent memory where out of the top 5 leagues, you could arguably say it's between 4 and 5. If you count England, Spain, Germany, France, and Italy. Not to say that the 3 main teams that joined the Super League, Juventus, AC Milan, and Inter Milan, have more history than others, but when it comes to the revenue, those 3 teams make the most revenue in the Serie A, broadcasting, commercial rights, etc., and they also have the most fans globally. So this is why we had these 3 teams in the Super League. Just as a side note, I thought it was funny that when all these teams were leaving, Napoli was asked if they wanted to join the Super League.
And they're like, "Can we join?" No, obviously not. But so yeah, that's all together. Those in those 3 leagues, those teams were selected for the Super League. So once that went to fruition, like I said, Sunday night everything went down, and the crazy thing about it is, like, this thing just garnered so much press and so much news. Fans for all the clubs that were selected, City, United, Barcelona, Madrid, and even in Serie A teams, all their fans were like, no, 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 nobody wants this. Nobody. Like, this was a strong no. And and the whole point of it, because the whole concept of the Super League, I don't think we broke it down, but it's just like, it's all these teams just playing against each other, in contrast to a Champions League, and that they don't have to fight for their position. So, for example, United can get freaking relegated, and they'll still be in this league. And the same thing for all the other teams. So it does. It's like, it's to the point where they don't even have to fight for the title. It's like, we're in the Super League. We're all going to get our money, and we give 2 shits about what we do domestically. And it was like a slap to the face of the football fans.
Right. So let's even take a step further back. That, like, this whole idea of guaranteeing a spot this is an American model. This is the franchise model, where we'll take American football, for example, or actually basketball. Basketball is more historically known to do this. You have the 32 teams in basketball, and at the end of the season, they'll rank 1 through whatever. If a team lose, it's not in trouble of losing finances. Now, when we have football, when a team gets relegated from the Premier League to the Championship, they lose Premier League money. It's also a financial burden because I've heard stories where when teams get relegated, people get laid off. People lose their salaries, their jobs, their livelihood. This doesn't happen in the American franchise model. You can have the worst team in basketball, and I can't think of the worst team in basketball right now. You watch more basketball than I do. What's the team right now? The Knicks are above 500, by the way.
The Knicks are doing phenomenal right now. I would say Washington Wizards are, oh no, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Okay, I was gonna say the Phoenix Suns, but I know the Phoenix Suns are doing a little better. But
no, the Phoenix Suns are ranked number 2.
Right, that's what I mean. Back in the day, they were bad. But okay, so let's take the Minnesota Thunder, the Minnesota Wolves, Timberwolves. No matter how bad any of these teams play, their finances are going to be fine because since they're part of a franchise, the collective is always gonna.
They're still gonna get their money.
They're gonna get their money, right? And so in football, that doesn't happen. So with the Super League, that's the whole idea: is that no matter how bad a team plays in the Super League, you'll have also constantly ending up in last place in the Super League. I'll use a better example. Juventus always coming in last in the Super League. They're not going to be worried about their finances. They're not worried about it.
And it's funny to me because how you mentioned it too, and I just realized as well. Not majority, but it's a good majority of the EPL teams. That the owners who signed up for this, they're American. They're American-based owners, and I'm pretty sure Florentino Perez is like, hey, can we make this more like you guys can, reach out to your American pals and see if we can get investors, et cetera, because they know. I'm pretty sure he has a whole plan and model of getting all these ads and all that stuff. And I think that's what really took it to fruition because they put this clown, Joel Glazer, as one of the vice chairmen on this board. And like Florentino Perez was going to be like the head honcho of this. So I could see where it came from and how it was, brought up to be like that.
Of course, no, this is 100% an American thing. And, and prior to probably the turn of the century, football clubs were very localized. They were more community based.
Yep.
When a rich owner comes in, that's fine. Like rich owner could come in and do it. But at the end of the day, most of these men are businessmen. They're trained to do a financial decision, not a morally right decision. They have to do a financial decision. And I'll play devil's advocate here. As a business wise thing, this is probably a great thing to do because it's going to guarantee them money and they don't have to get relegated, which will cause financial burden. And it's just going to generate revenue, of course. But, football, European football doesn't work like that. The people don't want that.
People like to also see an underdog. Like how Leicester won the Premier League.
It goes deep in that. It's just not the product that the people like. What I always found fascinating, especially like in the NFL, before the last 3 years, you always had different teams going into the Super Bowl. It was never a consistent thing. I remember when the Steelers won it, the Baltimore Ravens won it, and the random teams winning the Super Bowl, but yet they never consistently defended our title up until I think the Patriots the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I just remember, and I always thought it was strange. Is like, how can 1 year the team be so good and the next year be so bad? And I guess for American fans, that provides an excellent product, but it kind of puts every team on the same playing level. What's so special about Leicester City is that they were always the underdogs. They were always the team that was supposed to lose, and yet they miraculously they were going to get relegated. The season prior to them winning the championship, they think in the span of the last 5 games they got enough points to stay above the relegation zone.
Mm-hmm.
So those stories don't happen, but two, that's what makes the game so special. is that you have these underdog stories. It's that product. You don't get that product in the NFL. You don't get that product in basketball. You don't get, a team in basketball. If you're below 500, you're going to get knocked and miraculously make it into the playoffs. You're going to get knocked out the first round. It just doesn't happen. In soccer it can, in football, and the football we like, it can.
Mhm.
And I don't want to go more into a tangent, but we were talking about the I actually completely lost what we were talking about. It was
We're
it's
talking about the financial point of view as well
yeah,
with
this is
the owners and how they saw it was like a whole business ordeal. And it business wise, it is. I get the logic behind it,
right,
but it's not gonna work
not
because
gonna
I think it's a what as well as it's how American capitalism is compared to European ideology. I think if you were to take it like deep rooted, Europeans a little more laid back. They're not socialist in that sense, but they're more going towards that idea because they support everyone from the bottom up and make sure they're funded, they're taken care of, and that's how it's always been in Europe. In contrast to here in America, where everybody's just like, get two shits. You got money, okay? You get a team, let's go. That's pretty much how it is out here.
right. So it's the financial incentives is very different. The culture is very different.
Yeah,
Uh, they were talking. What I found really interesting is that it really is an American. This is an American creation. Even though Florentino Perez is at the head of this is really American ideals. Um,
I was just surprised, honestly, that the Italian teams took over, but I kind of get why because it's
well,
different
the
owners.
Italian teams have a interesting situation, is like because they're all in debt.
Yeah, that's what I was
They're
gonna
all
say.
they're all in debt, and for them it makes sense. It was like, yo, we got to get out of this debt. So for them it was like sink or swim, man. I think it's going to be Inter Milan is going to have a hard time in the next couple of years. So I'm not excited about this, but it is what it is.
But it's also funny because since it was just those three countries, no German or French teams actually took up to it. France or PSG, surprisingly, I'm not surprised why they didn't take up onto this.
There's a reason why. I don't know. So PSG did not take it, and my friend pointed this out to me, is that they're owned by the Qataris.
Hmm.
The FIFA gave Qatar the World Cup,
Oh.
so
I
the
thought it was also
Qataris,
because the owner he was also part of the new UEFA.
correct.
He was in the committee or something like that.
I mean that too, but at the end of the day, it's because the Qataris, got the World Cup, and they're not going to go against FIFA. So PSG is like, nope, we can't break this. But there is actually an interesting point about the finances, and I think this is why PSG is going to get away with not having nothing to do with this. The Bayern Munich case is interesting because there's actually a law that says a percentage of the club has to be owned by the fans.
Yeah.
So it's a I guess a public institution. So they can't do something like that with the fans' approval. Um, and then bringing it back to the fans, and this is more a subjective opinion than I try to be factual, but this is more a subjective opinion. The people, like I said, the people don't want this is not the product that the people want. The people were not going to stand by this and let this happen. And we saw a lot of teams fans that just came out and protested and they put up banners. I think Man U, they blocked the entrance into the training grounds.
Yeah, same thing with Chelsea. For when they were playing again in Stamford Bridge, their fans actually came out and they were pretty much blocking the bus to enter. And this was just news as soon as like the Chelsea, the team itself, were just like, hey, we're gonna pull out of this before shit really hit the fan because they were just like, okay, this is not going well. We're generating so much bad PR. Fans are pretty much upset, and and it's just it was bound to happen because like I mentioned before, nobody else was notified. Like I don't think stakeholders were notified about this, especially for teams. And if you don't notify the people that pay you or invest in this, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck is going on?" And it's bonkers because I'm just surprised they even like they had the fucking cojones to even try this, and the whole backlash. And the funny thing about this is when I don't know if you saw, but Florentino Perez actually went on TV and tried to justify, oh, this is the important for this is the future for football. Young kids don't watch football for 90 minutes. I'm like, the fuck is he? Where is he getting this research from? I'm like, kids, 90 minutes is perfect for football. I don't understand where the hell he's coming at this. And it was just crazy. And he's just making himself look like a fucking asshole because I think he just scapegoated himself and that's when it was just really, tickling down. But the other thing too, I do want to say, like, since we are getting a little subjective as well, since this trickled down, down to like the stakeholders and then down to like management, also the players were not told about this. And the one thing, as a Manchester United fan, I want to personally congratulate or thank Harry Maguire for leading the team and telling Woodward to fuck off, basically. And I don't, I there was rumors saying that they were not going to play or something was going to happen. He was going to lead the team, and you saw Bruno Fernandes put in a long message on social media, along with Marcus Rashford and Luke Shaw, and this is all across the board. Even Jordan Henderson from Liverpool was texting all the captains from the Premier League, telling like, "Yo, we got to do something. We can't let these guys get away with it." So I do commend the players for this because they stepped up for what they believe in.
I think that's a very valid point. The fact that the players weren't informed or told about this whole league thing, it brings up a valid point. Now let's take Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. They probably weren't told of it either. If they decide not to play the Super League, they say, I'm going to go sign for PSG and Bayern. How can you justify the Super League being the best league in the world when you don't have the two best players in the world? And it's not just Messi and Ronaldo. It's probably the majority of the players would be like, well, we're out. We're gone. Goodbye.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. Sorry to cut you off, but the consequences too, because once UEFA heard about this and FIFA, they were like, no, we don't want this. Or if they were teams were to participate in the Super League, they were like, you guys are not playing internationally. Kiss your World Cup dreams goodbye, etc., etc. Or you can't play in your own domestic league, whatever the case may be. So UEFA was taking a hard stance. There was a lot of criticism. UEFA was taking a harder stance on this than racism, but that's another topic to discuss on.
But no, I agree. I think that I felt was the nail in the coffin, because as a player, your biggest ambition is to play in the two competitions, the FIFA World Cup and the UEFA Champions League. And the fact that you're going to get banned from both is you're not going to really take that chances. Like, every child dreams of lifting one of those two trophies up, or both, or whatever. So I would have found it very difficult for any player, any top level player, especially Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, who could possibly, I mean, not anymore, but they have the caliber to win those competitions. Let's for example, Mbappe, who will probably has a good chance of winning another World Cup. If he was playing on Real Madrid and Real Madrid's playing the Super League, they told him he can't play in the World Cup. I think Mbappe will change his mind. He's like, no, I want to go win as many World Cups as I can. Mm-hmm. And even like stepping away from what the players lose, it's also as a broadcaster. Did you see that Amazon released a statement saying that they're not interested in the Super League? And I think there's another broadcaster called Danza Sport, the Danza Sport. It's based in Germany. There was another broadcaster, whatever, and they said, we're not interested in this. Heineken released a statement saying, we're not interested. We're happy to sponsor the Champions League. As a sponsorship, as a broadcaster, now that I know that Messi and Cristiano are going to play in the Super League, why would I want to buy? Why would I want the rights to that league?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, people love Real Madrid and Barcelona, but people love Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. People love watching Mbappe. People love watching Haaland or whoever it may be that these people like. They're gonna go watch them. You know, that's the reason why the EPL is what it is, because it has so much star power. That's why La Liga is what it is, because they had Cristiano Messi. You know, between 2010 and 2020, what major player did Serie A have that you could think of?
I can't even think of something.
You you,
Pogba.
you Pogba, but now technically his prime years were supposed to be at United, but even though he played better at Juventus, right? So it was just it's a very limited star pool. I'm not saying these players aren't talented, because I'll always say Serie A is the greatest league in the world, but there is no star power. So when the Super League no longer has that star power, why would a Broncos like? Why would I want those? Like, okay, you have Atletico Madrid, but Atletico Madrid of who? Who's playing on that team? Who's playing on the Barcelona team? Who's playing on the Inter Milan team? Who's playing on the Man U team? You know, a lot of these players also have in their contract, we have to play Champions League. If not, I'm going to go sign for another team. You know, so that's I think that's where the Florentino and the rest of the Super League failed to realize is like there's going to be an exodus of players. And when that
I think also Florentino is so full of himself. He thought he can figure this out, or he thought like his cronies and whoever he hired was just like, okay, we'll get our own TV, because they didn't even have a TV deal or anything. This was poorly executed as well. I saw on a tweet like there's no, other than the press release, there was really no structure of how the league is going to be set. They had no TV. They had no real like marketing ideas. There was no way to promote like how they would do the schedule and etc. Because if this really went to fruition, it would have started this summer. In contrast to the Champions League, all in all, Florentino just wanted to get rid of the Champions League because he believed that they weren't making enough money from Champions League. Which I'm like, what the fuck? They already make a shit. Like Madrid's been in Champions League for almost every year since like what early 2000s or something like that. So I'm just like, why? Like, I get it, like getting more money. Yes, you want to make more profit, but I just think the way they went about it just really shit the bed, to say the least.
right at the end of the day, it looks like this hopefully this doesn't come back again. You know, hopefully this is going to be dead in the waters, because you know, like I said, at the end of the day, nobody wants this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just the investors, the people, the owners.
You know, it's so funny. I did see one person who wanted to see this, and you wouldn't be surprised, but Alexi Lalas. It was like, this is interesting. If I get to see all the top teams play against each other, why not sign me up? I'm like, wow, he really had the balls to say that.
Listen, and it's not like it's a bad idea. You know, like who wouldn't want to see a Clásico? You know, or who wouldn't want to see Real Madrid versus Manchester United? Right. I like to see that. But that's the problem, is that you can't have that weekend every weekend.
Yeah.
You know, that's the allure of the game, is that, do you remember like in the early round of the FA Cup, Tottenham played like a sixth division team.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like this whole buzz about it. There was this whole like, look at this tiny team taking on a behemoth, even though Tottenham isn't taking on a behemoth. You know, but that's the point. It's like you don't get those matchups. You rarely get, and that's what makes it so special, so beautiful. In the closed system, the Yankees will always play the Red Sox. Always. Every year, the Yankees will play the Red Sox.
I think that's the prestige of it, or like that's what makes it special. The Champions League, especially because you don't always see United against Real Madrid or Barcelona on a year by year basis, unless they really are on top of their games and they just end up there. But yeah, but but I feel like that's the good thing about it, because you know sometimes you don't want to oversaturate it. Granted, yes, it's good. It may be good to see it like once a year or whatever the case, but sometimes maybe it's good not to see it every time, because sometimes you get tired of it. What's this? I know there's somehow these two teams. I think it's Arsenal and Bayern Munich. They always get pitted against each other, and Bayern Munich ends up smacking up Arsenal. But like those are the rare occasions you actually see like those two powerhouses going against each other.
I remember. I think I remember there was a Champions League, like there was a span of 3 years where Arsenal always matched up with Barcelona. You
But
know,
yeah, early 2010s.
in the early 2010s, right? And Arsenal lost every single time, and like Arsenal doesn't want to play Barcelona every weekend.
Exactly.
Arsenal doesn't want to play in Bayern Munich, But again, it just takes away the allure of it. It's like the Clasico is great, but if I saw it every single weekend, I was like, okay, it's what's so special about it? What's great about it now? Right? It ruins the allure. It ruins everything. And then we could talk like having this closed league system where all the top teams are in it. And let's just say, to say it does go through. What happens to all the other leagues? What happens to all the smaller teams? You know,
I think they would. I don't think they would even play the domestic leagues because given they do Super League, it's gonna be tough. Just to manage that because there's not gonna be any like drive or I'm gonna say if a need to like win their Premier League, like just be for shits and giggles. Because like, hey, we're already in the Super League. We're already playing these top teams. We'll probably put more priority to this league than the other one because hey, we want to beat the powerhouses. So
and let me just switch gears. And I know we've gone on some tangents, and it's a lot of info, but I think the audacity of all these teams saying they're the best teams in the world. There's only one team in that group that I could say that right now is a top team is Man City. I'm sorry, but Man U isn't, Arsenal isn't, Tottenham isn't, maybe Chelsea. I'll give Chelsea now. In the beginning of the season, they weren't. Inter Milan isn't, AC Milan isn't, Juve isn't. These teams are not top teams anymore. Barcelona, Real Madrid are not what they used to be. If you had a power ranking right now, I think the top teams are definitely PSG, Bayern Munich, and Man City, Dortmund, definitely Chelsea. I'd give I'll put Leicester City in there before I put Man U or Liverpool in there. I just don't see how these teams say we are the best in Europe when they're not. These teams are not what they used to be. They used to be great. You had Man U has a treble. Inter Milan has a treble. AC Milan has 7 European Cups. Real Madrid has 13, defended 3. Barcelona was what Barcelona is, the greatest club side ever. These teams are not what they used to be. They are not the Super League. If I had a Super League, I put in Rangers, I put in Ajax, I put in definitely Bayern, BVB, Red Bull Leipzig. Those are teams I put. That's a Super League. Those are real teams. Those are good teams. Atalanta, but these original 12, out of the original 12, I'd say just Man City and Chelsea. The other teams are not even in the Champions League anymore.
So you're giving Chelsea a lot more love than I would.
I mean, I based on what if you're talking about football, based on what I see, I put Chelsea up there. I'm not saying Man U's in second, right? But Man U is not what they used to be. Man U is like, Man U goes and plays in Europe. They don't strike the fear like when Sir Alex Ferguson was on there.
Well, yeah, and going into Old Trafford.
No one cares. Like people go in and okay, we're gonna play Man U. It's not like what it used to be. Same thing like with AC Milan, Inter Milan. Like they're not the scary teams that like, oh my God, we're playing Inter Milan. Oh my God, we're playing AC Milan. Juve isn't like that either. Oh my God, we're playing Juve. No. These teams
I think it's just like a changing of times. I think we're at the period where we're seeing a new card and like new potential powerhouses. But the other thing as well is that it's changed because like I said, beginning of the decade, like bringing it back, beginning of last decade, it was just Barcelona, Real Madrid. Those are the 2 teams you just didn't want to face because they were just unstoppable. And they were just too good against each other. So I get what you mean, and it's like right now, like it's just changing at the times because you don't have that one dominant team at this point. We're in a time where everyone can beat anybody. I feel like that's how we're at right now. We don't have a dominant team that's just winning Champions Leagues, their own domestic leagues.
We're at the changing of the guard.
Yeah,
and the audacity of Tottenham haven't won shit. Nothing. Celtic, Benfica, Porto, Hamburg, Nottingham Forest that plays in the championship. Um, there's
Aston Villa, no, no.
Aston Villa is one. Yes. Red Star Belgrade. Red Star has a Champions League. There's a Romanian team has a Champions League. I want to name them all right now because I can put them at the top of my head. BVB has a Champions League. Who are the German ones? BVB, Nottingham Forest, Aston
Then
Villa.
Schalke one, the Schalke one, or
No,
not?
Schalke's never won one. I think Hamburg. Hamburg's won one.
Okay.
Hamburg won one. Feyenoord, PSV. I think PSV. Ajax has 3 in a row. Marseille from France.
Yeah.
And Spain is just Real Madrid and Barca. In Italy is Inter, AC Milan, Germany, and that's it. I think I've got the non. So the fact that Tottenham and Arsenal say we're part of Super League and never won a Champions League, I don't think Arsenal hasn't even won the UEFA Cup. Tottenham hasn't even won the UEFA Cup.
No.
You know, so again, it's like, oh, we're the Super League. Atletico hasn't won the Champions League. They have won UEFA Cup, but they have not won the Champions League. So again, it just goes back to this ideal that these teams think they're super when they're not. They just have the most money and the most fans.
Yeah, I think that's just pretty much the cusp of it. Like you said, like a lot of these teams have not won jack shit, and to be honest, it's just they're just doing it just to join this exclusive club. That's why Arsenal and Tottenham did it, because they know, they were like, hey, we can get away with this, or we can join this. We're pretty much considered one of the top teams, even though we haven't really represented that in like years ago. But with all of that being said, though, it's just ludicrous how this thing even came to fruition. But just bring it all together. It's good that everyone stepped up and said, why this was not going to work, why this is a spit in the face of the football fans. And it's unfair as well, because it would shit on the domestic leagues. It would just ruin football worse than it is. And I'm glad that it's pretty much postponed. I don't see it like going away for good. I think they these owners, money grubbing owners, are going to keep going at it. They're going to want to push for like another another go at it, probably like later in the year, maybe next year, who knows. It's just depending on how they want to plan this out. And it's funny though, the funniest thing is like seeing on Twitter when all these teams set their press releases, especially Arsenal were the first ones, like, oh, we apologize, we made a mistake, etc. Then the Glazers like, oh, we apologize, we should have thought this better, etc., etc. They're just fucking full of shit about this.
Yeah.
And they're just like walking with tail behind their legs. But but the good thing is, like, I'm glad the fans have not, like, they're like, okay, that's it, we can't deal with this no more. You guys have no interest for us, the fans. Because especially in England, like, a lot of these teams were brought up, through fans and everything. They create it. It's their community. It's what represents them. And you have these foreigners pretty much just taking over and just dictating what they want to be, what they want them to be, instead of what they should be. And like I said, I think I'm applauding the fans. I know the United fans are doing a massive protest, especially against the Glazers. They want Glazers out. They want it to be how it was. Like, I think 50%. I think like 50% ownership of like fans or something like that, so they can outweigh the Glazers for any like moves, or to prevent anything like this going on in the future. So yeah, I am glad for that. And also, goodbye Ed Woodward. I've been wanting to say that. He's gonna be gone by the end of this year, and just like I say, just good riddance. You will not be missed, to say the least.
Thank God. There was also a move from the Arsenal fans for
They want Kroenke out.
Kroenke out, Stan Kroenke out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what a mouthful! What a week! And I still think we have a lot to cover. But Adrian, do you have any closing thoughts before we end this episode?
Yeah, actually. So with this whole news unraveling about the Super League, UEFA were like, "Hi, we just announced our new structure for Champions League coming 2024. Pretty much that they're going to announce they instead of 32 teams, it's going to be 36, if I'm not mistaken. They want 36 teams, and it's ironically almost a little eerily similar to how Super League is set up. 36 teams, a table from 1 to 36. Every team pretty much playing against each other. They're playing 10 games, and and to even get into this, like some teams don't even need to qualify. Like just on name recognition, their coefficient that they could just qualify just as is. So for example, Arsenal ends up in their favorite place, like as a mid-table team, they still have a chance to qualify, even though they do shit in the league. So it's a little weird, but I don't know. It is what it is. I still prefer this over the Super League. I prefer the modern way we have Champions League. Top four or not, etc. Or if you win Europa League, congratulations. Yes, you can get in. But overall, I don't know. It is what it is. It's gonna take some time to grow into this, but that's still 2024. So let's enjoy the next couple of years of the Champions League for the way it is right now.
No, I prefer the way the Champions League is right now too. But all right, well, guys, thank you for listening to our episode 49, 50. Hopefully, will be a doozy. We'll see what happens in the next couple days, couple weeks, and we'll have a great episode for you next time, as we always do. Thank you
Thank you
for
guys.